Welcome back, everybody. This is Miss Jermac, our Grange librarian, year 6 choice, and I'm reading, it's 2 books in one, but I'm reading The Dolphin Song. I'm really quite enjoying it because it's set in South Africa, where I'm from, and also about dolphins, which I absolutely love. In the 6 months she'd been in South Africa, Martine had not once been to the beach because her grandmother rarely left the storm crossing area and wasn't the sort of person who would ever be caught covered in sunblock reclining on a striped deck chair. For obvious reasons, Martine was quite content with this arrangement, so she'd been taken aback the previous evening when Gwyn Thomas had suggested that they get up at dawn and go for a walk along the Cape Coast. Luckily, it was far too cold to swim, so swimming wasn't an issue, which meant that Martine was much more enthusiastic about the idea than she would have been had it been summer. She was even more pleased when they reached Acerfontein shortly before 8 that Sunday morning, and she saw the ocean spilling out before her. The sun was a band of glittering gold splayed across a heaving wilderness of metallic blue. Purple heather grew right up to the shore. As she climbed out of the car, the sea breeze snatched at her scarf, and the smell of the waves filled her nostrils. It was definitely not warm, and Martine was glad her grandmother insisted that she rug up with a woolly hat, wind cheater, and gloves. Seagulls aside, there was no one around but a kite surfer out in the bay. Martine stood riveted on the dunes as he rode the waves like a charioteer. At intervals, he'd disappear behind a swell, and all that would be visible was his kite, a billowing parachute in candy-coloured stripes. He'd be gone for so long that she began to think he'd fallen victim to the undertow, but then he'd come speeding out on the face of a breaker. The wind whipped the waves into powdery plumes of spray like the manes of white horses. They'd toss the man and his board into the air, and the kite would catch him and lift him even higher, allowing him to somersault and twist in effortless defiance of gravity. Then he'd float back down and slip behind another swell. Out on the beach, the whistling wind made conversation difficult, and Martine couldn't help thinking about the school trip again. Her swimming fears aside, it did sound fantastic. Miss Faulkner had told the class that the Sardine Run was one of the great wonders of the natural world, as marvelous a migration as that of the wildebeest in East Africa, where every year over 1 million of the curly-horned beasts moved in an epic black sweep across the yellow plains of the Serengeti, evading lions, hyenas, the spotted gold streaks which were hunting cheetahs, and slow-blinking crocodiles in torrential rivers. On the sardine run, she said it was not uncommon for shoals of sardines to be as much as 15 kilometers long and 3 kilometers wide, and for the pods of dolphins which pursued them to be 1,000 strong. Martine was looking forward to the dolphins most of all. She had only ever seen one dolphin in real life, and that was at a grim aquarium she'd visited with her equally grim former school, Bodley Brook. In a peeling swimming pool, a trainer had coaxed it into performing dozens of tricks with beach balls and rubber rings. Some of the children had been invited to reward it with fish from a bucket, probably sardines, but Martine had kept her distance. When the dolphin approached the poolside, she noticed that its mouth was curled at the corners in a permanent smile. Throughout the show, she'd had the feeling that the dolphin was smiling only because it couldn't help it, like a clown smiling through tears. The dolphin memory reminded her of another animal she felt was being taken advantage of, her own white giraffe. The best thing about Jemmy becoming famous after the rescue was that he'd lost his currency to hunters. As the only white giraffe on Earth, he was still very valuable, but not nearly as valuable as he had been when he was a mythical beast of legend. And he was not exactly of a size which would make it easy for a poacher to catch him and dye him a different color for reasons of disguise. The worst thing about Jemmy becoming famous was that everyone wanted to see him. Previously, he'd slept in his secret sanctuary during the day and only come out at night. Now he went there at night and roamed the game reserve during the day, and Gwyn Thomas led white giraffe tours around Sawubona in search of him. She had even ordered white giraffe mugs and white giraffe t-shirts. Over the past few months, Martine and her grandmother's relationship had improved about 1,000%. but the white giraffe tours were a bone of contention. Gwyn Thomas organized them very carefully so that Jemmy would not be stressed in the least, but Martine loathed the idea of camera-laden tourists gawking at Jemmy. She'd made her feelings on the subject very clear. She'd begged and pleaded for the tours to stop and gone on and on about how sensitive and special Jemmy was. But her grandmother was adamant that the best way to ensure that the white giraffe stayed special was to allow people access to him in a controlled environment, added to which the game reserve needed the money he earned them. It's simple arithmetic, Martine. The more money we can make, the more animals we can save. And there was nothing Martine could say to that, because times were tough at Salbona, and she too wanted to save as many animals as possible. A mitten-covered hand tugged at her sleeve. She realized that her grandmother was trying to get her attention. Honestly, Martine, I sometimes think your hearing's worse than mine. I haven't got my glasses with me. What's that on the beach up ahead? Is it a seal, or is it just an oddly shaped rock? Martine blocked out the sun's bright rays with her hand. She gasped, I think it's a dolphin. Martine reached the dolphin first. Gwyn Thomas later commented that she would never believe her granddaughter, hopeless at all sports bar giraffe riding, was capable of moving at such a speed. Had she not witnessed it herself? But Martine slowed for the last few steps so as not to alarm the dolphin if it was still alive. It was, but if appearances were anything to go by, not for much longer. Martine crouched by the edge of the water, and two things happened at once. She looked into the dolphin's dark blue irises and had the curious sensation she was falling into them, into a place of wisdom beyond understanding and innocence beyond measure. And not only that, but that it wanted to communicate with her. Simultaneously, she put her hands on its shining grey body, expecting it to have a cold, rubbery feel, and found instead that it was satin smooth and muscular. When she stroked it, a bolt of electricity ran up her arms, just as it had when she'd first touched the white giraffe. She snatched her palms away as if she'd been scorched. The poor thing has beached itself, said her grandmother, hurrying up. It's a real mystery why they do that, but it's happening more and more. Only the other week I was reading about 300 dolphins stranded on the shore in Zanzibar. Martine, are you all right? You're as white as snow. If this is too upsetting for you, you can wait in the car while I get help. Martine found her voice. What do we do? How do we save it? How will it breathe? Well, dolphins are mammals, not fish. So they breathe oxygen like us, but shock and being out of the water are what kills them. We need to keep its skin wet. There's a bucket in the car. You're a lot younger and fitter than I am. Would you run and get it and fetch my mobile too? I'll call the Marine Rescue Department. Isn't it amazing how that wretched phone is never handy when you need it? Martine stood up reluctantly. The dolphin was dying, and it had as good as asked for her help. If she did as her grandmother requested, it would take time. Time that might mean the difference between life and death. If she attempted to save the dolphin herself, she could start immediately, but there were two big hurdles. The first was that she'd never tried healing a dolphin before. What if she couldn't do it, and she had wasted a crucial half hour, which could have been used to summon the marine rescue people, and the dolphin died, and it was her fault. The second was that her grandmother didn't know about her gift. She didn't know about the Zulu legend which said that the child who could ride a white giraffe would have power over all the animals, but she had never seen any evidence of it, and she didn't really know what it meant. It's a shame that any powers you've been given don't extend to keeping your room tidy, Martine, she liked to joke. Not even Martine knew what the legend meant. All she knew was that she had to find an excuse to get her grandmother out of the way. Martine, this is an emergency, Gwyn Thomas reminded her. A family of dog walkers spilled into view. They were moving down the creamy beach in the opposite direction, pulled by a trio of exuberant black Labradors. Those people might have a phone, Martine suggested. It might be quicker if we ask them to call the Marine Rescue Services. Good thinking, dear. Why don't you run and ask them? I can't, Martine said. She hung her head in what she hoped was a bashful way. I'm shy. Please can I stay here with the dolphin? A germ of suspicion crossed Gwyn Thomas's face. You're shy? Yes. I would have thought that this was one time when... Oh, never mind. Well, try to keep it calm while I'm gone. Martine waited until her grandmother was well on her way to the dog walkers before laying her hands on the dolphin's silky smooth body again. Its skin was dry and warm. Once again the electric current zapped her, but this time she was ready for it. She kept her palms on the dolphin's side, and in her head she apologized to it for not knowing anything about the healing of dolphins. Nothing happened at first, but then her palms heated up to the point where they were almost sizzling. Her heart felt full to bursting, and into her mind came a vision, not of tribesmen in animal masks and swirling smoke and great herds of buffalo and giraffe, as she'd experienced when she'd tried healing before, but of an island with white sand. And in the aquamarine waters which surrounded it, she saw herself quite clearly swimming with dolphins. Is it dead? Martine jerked back to reality to find that her jeans were soaked through, as if she'd been waist deep in water. The kite surfer was standing over her. Excuse me, she murmured vaguely. Is it dead? He repeated a little impatiently. Martine shook her head as much to snap herself out of her trance as if in reply. As in reply. She heard herself saying, No, it was just resting. Would you mind helping me put it back into the sea? The kite surfer was powerfully built, and he used the lines from his kite to assist him. But it took every ounce of their combined strength to pull, push, and roll the dolphin into the ocean. Submerged in water, the dolphin made no attempt to swim. It sank slowly. Martine's heart sank with it. I thought you said it was just resting, the kite surfer said a little accusingly. The dolphin gave an experimental twitch of its tail, then a more vigorous wiggle. It surfaced, tipped on its side, and regarded Martine with inquisitive eyes. It flapped a fin, sent some cheerful squeaks and clicks in her direction, and was gone in a shining streak. When next she saw it was performing acrobatics in the far breakers. The kite surfer chuckled. Funny thing about dolphins, he said. Ever notice that you can't help smiling when you're around them? He picked up his board and departed with a friendly salute. Martine waded out of the icy water and wrung out the bottom of her wet jeans, her hands tingling. She felt elated. Her gift had allowed her to help a wild dolphin. What else would it allow her to do? It seemed to be a gift of healing and communication. She didn't feel as if it belonged to her, though. She felt as if she was the caretaker of it, a sort of conductor. Watching the dolphin dive gleefully over a wave, Martine found that the kite surfer was right. She couldn't keep from smiling. However, when her grandmother homed into sight, she hastily rearranged her expression. Well, that was a waste of time, Gwen Thomas reported as she strode up, bucket swinging. They had no phone, so I did have to go to the car after all. Really, Martine, I think it might have been kind if you'd volunteered to do it for me. I'm not as fit as I used to be. Good heavens, you're soaking. What were you thinking of going in the Atlantic in midwinter? You'll end up with pneumonia. She did a double take. Where's the dolphin? Martine pointed out into the bay. There, she said, unable to suppress a grin. But how? Asked her grandmother, bewildered. I don't understand. Martine shrugged. The kite surfer came by and he helped me put the dolphin back into the sea. Then it just swam away. Just like that, huh? Just swam away. That's right. Gwyn Thomas stared at her with a mixture of puzzled admiration and something else which Martine couldn't quite fathom, but which gave her a warm feeling inside. It was obvious that her grandmother wanted to probe further, but for some reason she resisted the urge. Come on, you, was all she said. Let's get you out of those wet things. They were almost at the car when Martine realized that if she was soaked to the waist, she must have waded or swum in the sea during her trance. The odd thing was that she hadn't been afraid. She hadn't been afraid at all.